Good morning, Yetens. I hope you're all doing well. The topic for this video is cumulative frequency. Okay. So what we're going to be looking at here is what is cumulative frequency and how to plot a cumulative frequency curve on a graph. And we're going to also try and sort of learn how to interpret the graph as well. Okay. To draw a cumulative frequency curve of the following information, cumulative frequency it's just another word for running total, okay? So let's look at this example. They normally give you a table with with classes. So the temperature from 50 to 60, 60 to 70 is another group, 70 to 80 is another group, 80 to 90 is another group, and 90 to 100 is another group. So these are all sorts of group data. So the frequency is the number of times the temperature was between 50 and 60, or between 60 and 70. So the cumulative frequency is a running total. So for instance, so if the first one's 17, the next one will be 63 because I've added 17 plus 46. The next one's going to be 136 because I'm going to add all the previous three frequencies. And now for the fourth cumulative frequency, it is 188 because I'm going to add all the previous four frequencies, 17 plus 46 plus 73 plus 52. And then finally, cumulative frequency will be 200 because I've added the whole five frequencies now. Okay, fairly straightforward, right? So that's how you work out what cumulative frequency is. Now, a question might arise where they might say, estimate the number of days with a temperature below 75 degrees. So anytime you get a question like this, you need to draw a cumulative frequency curve from the data from the table. So this is our table now. Temperature against not frequency but cumulative frequency. This is our graph. Always the y-axis will be our cumulative frequency, and the x-axis will be our temperature. It says here start by plotting the lowest possible value in the data. So in terms of the temperature, what is the lowest in the table? 50, right? So I start off with 50. Then it says, number 2, the rest of the points are always plotted at the upper boundary of each of the group. So if we look at the first group of data, 50 to 60, the upper boundary is what? Is it 50 or 60? It is 60, okay? And the cumulative frequency goes up to 17. So I go to 60, along to 60 degrees, and then up 17, okay? So that's almost 20, okay? It doesn't have to be, yeah, you have to try and make it as accurate as possible, okay? But it doesn't have to be exact. If it's anything below 20, it should be fine. And then afterwards, you just do the same. So what is the upper boundary of the second one, 60 to 70? Well, of course, it's going to be 70. And the cumulative frequency now is 63. So you plot it over there. Okay, so you go along at 70 degrees, then up around 63 degrees, so just above 60. Okay, the next one now, 70 to 80. So the upper one is 80, and then it would be 136. Then 90 would be 188. Then 90 to 100, that should be okay. Would be about 200. Okay, and then finally, you just draw a curved line to match it. Okay. So now the question says, estimate the number of days with a temperature below 75 degrees. So we look at our graph, we go to 75 degrees, okay, temperature, and then we draw a dotted line all the way to the curve, and then we go across, and then we read it from the graph. What is our cumulative frequency? 95 days, okay? So that means, that's roughly 95, right? That means 95, approximately, it was 95 days that the temperature was below 75 degrees. Does that make sense? So if I said, for example, estimate the number of the number of days of a temperature below 75 degrees or 65 degrees. So you'd go to 65 and you read across, and that will be about 40 days, I believe. Yeah, we could try that actually. So if I said, for instance, so for 65 degrees, okay, what is the temperature? Hold on, bear with me. There you go. So we said estimate the number of days with a temperature below 75 degrees. So you go to 75 and you read across. That's about approximately 95 days. Now, if I said to you, estimate the number of days with a temperature below 65 degrees, so you do the same thing. You go to 65 degrees along the temperature axis, and then you read across where the line hits the curve. You read across, do your dotted lines, and that's about 40 days. Okay, so 40 days approximately. There were 40 days with a temperature below 65 degrees. Okay, so that is what really cumulative frequency is. Now, what I'd like you to do is pause the video, copy down this table in your books, and work out the cumulative frequency. And then draw the graph and estimate the number of students who achieve more than 65 marks. Okay, so cumulative frequency, you're going to add them up. There you go. Right. Once you've added them up, what are we going to do? We're going to draw a graph. What goes along the x-axis? Well, the y-axis would always be the cumulative frequency, and the x-axis would be the other piece of data that we're measuring, which is the marks. Okay. It says they start by plotting the lowest possible value in the data. What is the lowest possible value? 0 in this case. Okay. And then number 2, the rest of the points are always plotted at the upper boundary at each point, at each group. So the first group is 0 to 19. What is the upper boundary? It's 19, right? So we plot it at 19 and then 7, because that's cumulative frequency. The next group is 39, and with a cumulative frequency of 31, so it would be over there. Next one's 59 with a cumulative frequency of 114. Next one is 79 with a cumulative frequency of 166. And the last one is 100 with a cumulative frequency of 200. And then afterwards, what do? Do a curved line, joining all the points together. And then the question said, estimate the number of students who achieved more than 65 marks. What am I going to do? Do your dotted line on 65 marks, okay, all the way to the curve, and then go across. And that's about how much approximately? It says it careful. It's 200 minus 123. Okay, in this case, it will be 77 students who achieved more. Okay, so when it says less, it would be 123. But when it says more, achieve more than 65 marks, be careful. You're going to do 200 minus 123. Okay. Okay. So that'll be the end of this video for cumulative frequency. Thank you for listening.